Chris Booker just committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is he a sign that Alabama is making a more concerted effort to get players from down south?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back into the portal. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the portal your first listen each and every day as we go over all the happenings in the recruiting world, transfer portal, and NIL. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can win $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Alabama, are they going to make the concerted effort to switch to recruiting down south? Despite Kalen DeBoer's staff predominantly having a very heavy influence from the West Coast. As a note, the 25 Alabama class was excellent, but 7 of the 21 signees were from California. How sustainable is that? How well will it work with the roster that you have, and how do you compete in the SEC? We're going to discuss some of those things in relation to, quite honestly, a really good commitment that they just got out of Hapeville Charter in Atlanta, and that's Chris Booker. He's projected to be a guy that plays offensive line or defensive line. I think he'll play interior offensive line. We'll see how it goes, but really athletic kid, can play in space. I don't care which side of the ball he plays on. I think he's a little underrated. I know 24/7 right now has him as a 3-star. These things will change and shake out as we go through the spring, but he's the second commitment for the Tide in this class, and that's fine. It's better not to take commitments that you don't want. Saban oftentimes started out slow because they went for the big fish and played the long game. I'm totally down with that. But Alabama, again, 7 of their 21 this past year from California. They need to recruit better down south, especially in their own state. So is this a trend for them to get in line with what's going on in Alabama, in Georgia, in Florida, and focus on it more? I think that it has to be. And here's today's prediction. If Alabama does not do better, especially with linemen in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, they will not be a top 5 program anymore. That is my prediction for today. This recruiting prediction is not that hard to figure out because if you look at the NFL draft, especially D-line, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, these are the areas where you can get elite players in your own backyard. You have to adapt. They have not been as, shall we say, friendly, from what I've been told from multiple people in the training world, 7-on-7 world, on letting people come up to campus. Who do you contact? It has been a very cold welcome, and it has ticked off a lot of people. I've been told that by, again, multiple people unsolicited that are not connected to each other. So it's interesting. I don't know why. Saban was really accommodating for people to come up there, bring their kids up. One of my buddies in the 7-on-7 world has been taking kids to another SEC program because it's hard to get in contact with different people at Bama. So this is interesting. But they still, again, they've got 2 commitments, and Zion Gibson's the other one. Really good football player out of Gadsden City, Alabama. He's a corner. They're off to a good start with the 2 they have, but have they learned their lesson? I'm not convinced they have based on what my friends have told me, and it's why I'm a little more leery than most with Alabama being good year in and year out. Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a football coach. They've got good guys on the staff in terms of actual coaching. But at the end of the day, you win and you lose with talent more than anything else. The coaching is what gets you over the top. But you also have to have the right coaching to put the people in place to get those players and have the right ideas. It's not that hard at Alabama. If you recruit all the states connected to you, just cherry pick a couple of kids from around the country, one from Texas, one from California. Top 10 class every year, just kind of going ho-hum about it. If they do it right, it's a top 5 class every year, which is pretty typical at Alabama. I'm not sure if DeBoer will figure this out yet, but we'll see. This is a critical year for Alabama, and if they do not make the adaptation to finding more kids locally, beating out Georgia, Auburn, Florida State, etc., for those elite recruits, again, especially in the trenches, Alabama will not be the same program. That is my recruiting prediction for today. As for Booker, watching his film, that is a dude. That is a dude. I was surprised at how athletic he was. his explosiveness, his ability to run in space is really not normal for an offensive lineman. And again, he's listed by some as a D lineman. Maybe he plays there, but I like him as an interior offensive lineman. I think he could be an All-American candidate. Cannot teach the ability to run in space and hit the way he does. He's a finisher. He can play well when he pulls. He's good in his ability to just get in on a guy, stay low, and overpower him. He's 270, 280 pounds, 6'3", 6'4", powerhouse. This is a kid that has SEC written all over him in terms of what you think of in traditional downhill run game. If you're going to make that change that I was just talking about, getting this kid out of Hapeville Charter in Atlanta, Booker is a really good football player. There are a couple other recruitments that I want to discuss also from down south. For one of them, that's Kayron Maycock, linebacker out of Miami Central, one of the best programs in college football or in high school football. He's going to play for the Noles. Miami wanted him. Penn State wanted him. Bama wanted him. NC State, Louisville, Texas A&M, programs from across the country. He committed to Florida State, and he noted that it was the relationship that he had with the Florida State staff. That's fantastic. You have to be able to recruit with relationships first. Florida State, prior to the staff shakeup here this past November, December, I wasn't so sure about what they could do in regards to their ability to recruit nationally and even keep kids at home, because they weren't as consistent as some other programs. They went all in with their junior days and with their ability to get out on the road this winter to make up some ground and start on the 26 class fresh. And they're doing good. All 7 commitments for the Florida State Seminoles in the class of 26 thus far hail from the Sunshine State. Again, all 7. If Norvell is going to keep his job and rebuild that program after a disastrous 2-10 season, recruiting Florida's best is a great way to do it. Miami Central also, big thumbs up. That is a really good prospect. As for what they've got coming up, they still have a lot of big battles, and they've gotten some pretty good players to commit to coming to campus for official visits. They're ahead of the curve. So maybe Florida State is that team that gets over the hump and they get back into the point of, okay, we can be a national program again. But it starts at home, the I-10 corridor, get a few kids from Orlando, Tampa, and again, South Florida. Maycock is one of the best linebackers in the country, and he's a guy that I think is going to play early in Tallahassee. Great pickup for them. One more guy to talk about, and this is classic Oklahoma State. I think it's kind of funny that they got this kid early. Some people probably passed on him. Jalen Stewart. He's an edge rusher out of Pearland, Texas. That's south edge of Houston, for those who don't know the location of the institution itself. But he had offers from a lot of programs. Like Auburn offered him. Baylor offered him. He had all the schools like the Big 12 that you would think of, Arizona State. But they get him despite coming off a disastrous season themselves. Pure edge rusher, 230 pounds, a little undersized, 6'1", 6'2". But he is a speed demon, a guy that will run down plays and plays with tenaciousness. Lord only knows Oklahoma State needs more of that in their program right now. Jalen Stewart is a dude. I really like this film. And I think this is what you would just simply call good scouting by Oklahoma State. Not every kid's going to be 6'5.5", 235 out of high school. It's not how it works. This kid's a little shorter, but his explosiveness and his hand use makes him a very viable candidate to be a player that plays early in Stillwater. Not just plays, but plays early. Oklahoma State needs more defense. That's the other point of this. Getting defensive linemen, getting edge rushers is always a premium. Stewart is that guy. I think he's a possible late riser in the recruiting rankings later this year as more and more people watch this film. I didn't know anything about him before today. Now I do, and I'm glad I did. Really good football player. Thank you once again for making the portal your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in and talking with me about all the things going on in the recruiting world. We're going to do this each and every day. Going to have some fun with it. I don't know what exactly is going to unfold every day, but we're going to have recruiting predictions on this all the time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We will see you again soon.